Bago po tayo magsimula ngayong umaga, gusto po muna naming malaman ano kaya ang pulso ng mga guro at mag-aaral. Piliin niyo po ang napupusuan ninyong sagot sa ating Mentimeter para sa tanong na, ano ang namismong classroom activities na gusto mong maranasan ulit sa face-to-face classes? Naka-flash po sa inyong mga screen ang Mentimeter link bit.ly/mentiep2. Nakapin din po ang link papunta sa Mentimeter sa ating Facebook comment section.
Alright, magandang umaga, maayong buntag, naimbag na bigat, marhay na aga. Good morning mga ka-DepEd and partners in the basic education sector. Pinaka-importanting tanong ngayong umaga, what time is it? It's research o'clock! Alright, nagkita-kita naman po tayo ngayong araw na ito para sa ikalawang episode ng ating Research O'Clock. Ngayon po ay live na live tayo ngayon sa DepEd Philippines Facebook page at sa ating DepEd YouTube channel. Okay? But before we formally start, magpakilala muna po kami kung sino po kami, no? I am Lawrence.
And I am Gisela. We are from the Planning Service Policy Research and Development Division. At kami po ang inyong makakasama ngayong umaga. We also have our Filipino Sign Language or FSL interpreters from the Philippine School for the Deaf. Sina Ma'am Clarissa, Ma'am Pauline, Ma'am Shian, and Ma'am Reggie, as well as our partners from Public Affairs Service, Publication Division o PASPD, who are assisting us with the broadcasting for today's forum. Samahan niyo ulit kami hanggang tanghali for another session of meaningful discussion and sharings.
Yes, tama ka dyan, Gisela. And just to recap, kung ano ba talagang Research O'Clock para sa mga bagong kakapasok lang o di kaya ay mga bagong nga ngayon napapanood ang Research O'Clock, paliwanag lang po namin ng kaunti kung ano ba talaga ang Research O'Clock. Research O'Clock is a dissemination forum that aims to promote, number one, the use of research results and evidence in decision-making, program designing and implementation, plan formulation, and adjustment for the basic education sector. Also, ito pong forum natin ito, it aims to convene our educators, researchers, program implementers, and policymakers to discuss education issues and provide valuable inputs for future relevant actions. Gayun din, ang forum na ito ay nagsisilbing venue para magbigay ng policy feedback from our field implementers sa pamamagitan ng kanilang paggawa ng mga research and action research. At alam mo ba, Gisela, at para din po sa ating mga viewers, na ang Research O'Clock ay 2018 pa natin itong ito ginagawa. Yan, di ba? So, kumbaga, nasa 6 na taon na po din tayo. Yan, ng ating pag-conduct po ng Research O'Clock. Mayroon na po tayo na-conduct na halos 12 live sessions dito po sa DepEd Central Office, Bulwagan ng Karunungan, 12 virtual episodes, a total of 24 episodes, and we have presented 79 topics, no? At ang mga topics na ito ay nakatulong sa ating mga teachers to be inspired on conducting research, no? And conducting interventions na natutunan nila sa kanilang mga narinig na research. Very interesting talaga yun, no? Also, dito rin po sa ating Research O'Clock, we are featuring the research studies funded by the Basic Education Research Fund. And we also have invited 22 teachers na to present their research. At the same time, hindi lang po mga DepEd researchers yung ating ini-engage dito sa Research O'Clock. Meron din po tayong ini-engage na mga partners natin, no, in conducting research, kagaya ng UNICEF, Innovations for Poverty Action, Save the Children, Teach for the Philippines, and other universities and colleges na nagkakonduct ng research. At mamaya nga po, makakasama natin ang Philippine Business for Education na magpe-present din ng kanilang research. At sa mga nakaraang sessions po, ang ating po mga discussions na tinalakay ay patungkol sa, of course, dahil nasa DepEd tayo, tungkol sa learning delivery, curriculum, the teacher professional development, at well-being and child protection ng mga bata natin. So napakadami talagang topics nating tinatalakay dito. And hopefully, ma-inspire ang ating mga DepEd teachers na makakuha ng topics din, di ba? Para magawa din sila ng kanilang action research.
Ayan. Thank you very much, Lauren, sa pagbibigay ng purpose at kung ano na nga ba yung mga naganap sa ating research o'clock since 2018. Ayan, marami-rami na rin tayong mga naging episodes. So, nung nakaraang buwan naman, pinag-usapan natin sa research o'clock natin ay ang learning from the results of pilot implementation of the face-to-face classes in the Philippines, kung saan nakita natin ang mga naging resulta ng implementasyon ng face-to-face classes. So, ngayong araw naman, ang ating usapan ay magiging patungkol sa teaching and learning interventions na ginamit naman nila para sa elementary learners noong blended learning. Ayan, so ang mga sumusunod na buwan ay tatalakayin naman din ang mga reinforcing positive learning environment, and then inclusivity in blended learning towards improved learner participation, maximizing shared responsibility. And of course, on November, we will talk about education beyond pandemic. So please mark your calendars para wala kayong mamiss sa aming mga hinandang episodes para sa inyo.
Yes, tama ka dyan, Gisela. As mentioned earlier, ang ating discussion ay magiging patungkol sa teaching and learning interventions na ginamit ng ating mga DepEd researchers, ang ating mga teachers sa elementary level ngayong blended learning, no? At dahil ngayon nakabakasyon din ang ating mga teachers, so sana po no, kahit nakabakasyon po tayo na nagpapahinga ay tayo po ay continuously na natututo habang nanonood po dito sa DepEd live po natin sa DepEd Philippines Facebook page. At tatalakayin din po ng ating mga research presentations ngayon yung mga interventions na ginamit nila sa kanilang action research. Yan. So hopefully po based po sa presentations ng ating mga DepEd researchers ay ma-inspire din po kayo na sa susunod na school year ay mag-conduct din tayo ng action research or interventions na pwede natin magamit sa ating mga learners, no? But before we started in our program kanina, nag-share po kami ng konting interactions po para sa ating audience sa pamamagitan po ng Mentimeter para malaman lang po namin ano ba ang pulso ng ating mga guro at mga mag-aaral sa tanong na ano ang mismong classroom activities na gusto mong maranasan ulit sa face-to-face classes. Ayan. So ngayon po, I invite everyone na lahat ng nanonood po ngayon, mapaguro man kayo or mag-aaral, ano po yung inyong mga na-miss na classroom activities na gusto mong maranasan muli para sa face-to-face classes na magbubukas nga po tayo sa darating na school year. Ayan. Tsaka para po sa mga bagong kakapasok lamang po sa ating Facebook Live, pwede po kayong sumagot dito sa link na to na bit.ly/mentiep2 o di kaya ay punta kayo sa menti.com. Ayan. Pwede po kayong i-search po yan sa Google, sa inyong computer, menti.com at i-enter nyo po ang link na 9531-6811. Yan. Meron po diyang tanong na ano ang na-miss mong classroom activities na gusto mong maranasan ulit sa face-to-face class. Pagkatapos, meron po doon pagpipilian na mga options. So ito po, aalamin natin anong pulso ng bayan ngayon na gusto nating maranasan muli. At kung meron po kayong extra device, pwede nyo rin pong i-scan ang QR code na makikita nyo po sa ating screen. Yan. So for example, nanonood po kayo sa inyong laptop and then meron kayong extra device sa gamit ang cellphone, pwede nyo pong i-screen lang, i-scan po yung QR code para po makapunta na agad dito sa Mentimeter. Yan. And also, if you are joining us virtually, we hope that you will engage with us and participate in our discussions for today. Active po ang ating Facebook comment section. Pwede nyo rin din pong i-share doon ang inyong mga sagot. Kung hindi po kayo kayang pumunta sa Mentimeter, pwede nyo pong i-chat doon. Ngayon po ay nababasa po namin yung mga nag-chat-chat po sa ating Facebook page. Pwede nyo pong i-share doon kung ano po ang inyong namimiss na activity na gustong maranasan sa susunod na school year. Ayan. So far, wala pa kami nakikita po sa comment section. Pakilagay na po sa inyong comment section kung nahihirapan po kayo sa ating Mentimeter. Pero maganda rin po na sa Mentimeter kayo sumagot dahil mamaya po, ipa-flash po natin ang sagot ng taong bayan. Okay? Alright, sige.
Ayan, thank you Lawrence, no? Nabanggit na ni Lawrence lahat kung paano tayo magiging interactive dito sa ating session na kahit nasa kanya-kanyang tahanan tayo or nasaan man tayo at meron tayong internet connection or ang ating mga device, pwede tayo makapag-share ng ating mga ideas. Magandang way din ito para magkaroon tayo ng idea saan kaya interesado ang ating learners at teachers at ano kaya ang mga activities na pwedeng gawin. Kaya mga guro at mag-aaral, pulsuhan nyo na yan! Alright. Okay. At para naman po sa susunod na bahagi ng ating programa, let us welcome Director Roger B. Masapol, the Director 4 of Planning Service of the Department of Education for his welcome message. Good morning po, Director Roger.
Good morning, Gisela and then Lawrence, and good morning everyone. Akala ko nasa batibot ako eh. Nandito naman tayo sa ating episode ng Research O'Clock. Ako po ay nagpapasalamat sa mga suki dito sa Research O'Clock. Mula nung nagsimula tayo ng ganitong event, ay marami po tayong naipipresent ng mga saliksik, result ng mga saliksik, mga result ng research na makatutulong po sa ating lahat sa pagsasaayos ng ating teaching and learning, ng ating distance learning nung tayo ay nasa lockdown. Ito po ay may mga series pa hanggang umabot tayo ng November na matatalakay na natin yung education beyond pandemic. So sakto lang itong education beyond pandemic because kung mababasa niyo yung DepEd Order number 34 series of 2022 which is the school calendar, mag-start po tayo ng school year 2022-2023 by August 22. And then bibigyan po ng transition month, 2 months, ang lahat ng school for full implementation of in-person classes by November 2. So that will be the education beyond pandemic, which I guess by that time, mawawala na yung ating ibang mga restrictions. Hopefully, patuloy nang bumuti ang lagay ng ating COVID case sa bansa at hindi makapasok ang monkeypox para tuloy-tuloy na po ang pag-transition natin papunta sa new normal na tinatawag natin. So, kailangan po natin ngayon ang ating pananaliksik. Ito po ang kailangan natin, mga ebidensya kung paano mapapaganda at mapapabuti ang ating pagtuturo, ang ating edukasyon sa mga schools natin na more than 60,000 school, public and private, ay makabalik na sa pre-pandemic era kung saan lahat ay may interaction, lahat ay pwedeng pumasok in person, lahat ay pwedeng makipaglaro, lahat ay pwedeng kumain sa kantin kasama ang kanilang mga kaibigan at mga guro. So ibig sabihin nito, kailangan po ng inyong kooperasyon sa pagpapanatili ngayon habang nagpe-prepare tayo sa November ng pag-iingat para hindi na kumalat pa ang virus, yung COVID-19. So this episode will be focusing on exploring teaching and learning interventions in blended learning for elementary learners. So we will explore ano ba yung mga tested and then tried effective na mga interventions for blended learning na pwede nating i-upscale. Depende po sa magiging polisiya ng ating pamahalaan at ng ating kalihim ng kagawaran ng edukasyon. So ayan po. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pag-attend at back to you, Gisela, and then Lawrence.
Alright, maraming salamat po, Director Roger, sa inyong magandang mensahe po para sa amin, no? So, salamat din po at nagbigay din po inspirasyon ito na talagang na-excite po ang ating mga kabataan na magsama-sama muli sa classroom, kasama ang kanilang mga teachers, tsaka kumain sa kantin ng sabay-sabay. Ano po? Ayan. So, hello din po sa ating more than 400 plus na viewers po ngayong umagang ito, no? So kung may time po kayong mag-share ng ating pong live ngayon, live episode natin ngayon, kindly share on your timeline, sa inyong Facebook timeline, para po mas marami po ang makapanood ng ating Research O'Clock ngayong umaga. Ayan. At maraming salamat din po and good morning po sa mga bumabati ng good morning sa ating sa ating Facebook comment. Yan, sana all po may bumabati ng good morning po, no? Yan, kasi DepEd Philippines Facebook page lagi binabati ng good morning. Sana all po, no, binabati tayo ng good morning agad. Yan, tsaka hello din po sa mga nag-comment po, no, ng ano kanilang na-miss na classroom activities na gusto nilang maranasan ulit sa face-to-face class. May mga nagsagot po dyan ng experiment. Yan, so ako din po, no, nami-miss ko na rin po yung mga pag-experiment sa classroom. Ayan. Pero dahil wala pa ako sa classroom ngayon, ibang experiment po yung gagawin natin. Yan. Yan, sige po. Hello po ulit sa mga nag-good morning. Yan, share lang po natin sa ating Facebook po itong live na ito. Alright, so again po for this virtual episode of Research O'Clock, in-invite po namin ang ating pong partner sa basic education sector, which is the Philippine Business for Education, and dalawang DepEd BERP researchers to talk about their experiences during the blended learning modality, and more importantly, share their strategies and interventions sa kanilang ginamit.
Ayan, napaka-interesting ng mga nabanggit mo talaga, Lawrence. Thank you for that. And sigurado ako maraming new ideas tayong makukuha sa mga presentation. And at the same time, mga questions na rin tungkol dito. But before we formally introduce our presenters, we would like to remind everyone that when raising your questions or sharing your insights, please be reminded of our open forum protocols. So you have to indicate to whom your question is directed to at the start of your comment and ask only relevant and direct questions to our presenters. So you may write down your questions at the comment section of this live stream. So meron po tayong format para sa FB. Ilagay po natin ang ating name of participant, and then the target, our resource person, and then kasunod po ang ating question statement. And aside from the FB comment, you can post your question in our Padlet wall. So you can click the link at the post po ng ating Padlet. Ayan po na naka-display, or mas madali rin po kung i-scan ninyo ang QR code on our screen. Ayan, yan ang mga reminders natin, Lawrence.
Alright, maraming salamat, Lizelle, sa reminders, no? So kahit po na tayo naka-virtual, hindi namin kayo kasama dito sa lugar na ito, no? So we invite po everyone na magtanong pa rin po tayo, no, sa open forum maya-maya. At yan naman po yung ating tatanong po live din po sa ating Facebook Live maya-maya. So babasahin po namin ang inyong mga comments, ang inyong questions, para itatanong po natin sa ating mga researchers. Okay? So ito na exciting part para sa ating pa-Mentimeter kanina or sa ating papulsuhan ng bayan. So ating pong i-flash ngayon ang result ng ating tanong kanina na ano ang classroom activities na na-miss mo noong nasa blended learning at gusto mong maranasan muli sa face-to-face class. Ayan, sige, tingnan natin ang resulta ng ating pa-survey. Ayan. Wow! So, meron tayong 49 respondents. Yan, mahigit 40 po, no? 49 po yung mga sumagot. Ang na-miss talaga nila ay ang group activities. Wow, nakakatuwa naman. Miss na miss nila na yung mga pag-group work. Yan. Reporting, may nakamiss din daw ng reporting gamit yung kanilang Manila paper o di kay PowerPoint slide, no? Yan. Naalala ko noon, Gisela, yung pag-reporting, ang turuan talaga dyan, sino yung leader. Kung sino yung leader sa reporting, tsaka kung sino yung magsusulat sa Manila paper, no? So, kadalasan ako na lang nagsusulat sa Manila paper kasi, ayan, kasi mas gusto ko yung magsulat kasi yung mag-report sa harapan, no? Yan, yung iba naman, games. Wow, interesting, no? Games. Ano kayang grade level ng mga ito na gusto nilang gamitin ulit ay yung mga games? At saka yung games talaga, excite siya. Ayan, sige, pakita lang po ulit natin sa ating live ang resulta ng ating, ayan, yung ating bar graph. Pakita po natin. Meron din po nagsabi na 10% sa ating mga respondents ay role-playing or skit. Wow, napakasaya naman yan. Yan. May role-playing at skit daw. Yan, tanda ko noon, Gisela, ano ba, parang pinag-roleplay sa amin, yung sa No Limit Tangere. Yan, yung isang scene doon sa No Limit Tangere na i-roleplay namin. Yan, so na-miss din po talaga ng mga bata yan. Sige, basahin ko lang po ang sabi sa FB. May nag-comment din po na na-miss ko po yung pagluluto namin ng mga bata sa school. Yeah, tama sa TLE, di ba? Tsaka sa HE, yung pagluluto ng mga bata sa school para sa performance nila sa cookery. Tapos iikot nila sa ibang subject teachers para magpa-score based on rubrics. Wow! Talagang authentic yung assessment natin kasi gumagamit tayo ng rubric. Yan, kahit abonado ako lagi sa Ricardo, excited sila lagi, nakakamiss. I think teacher tong nagsabi na to, no? Na kahit abonado daw siya sa mga Ricardo ay masaya naman siya na yung kanyang mga estudyante ay natututong magluto. Alright, sige. Balikan muli po natin yung ating bar graph, yung ating resulta ng survey. May nagsabi namang 12% sa ating respondents na experiments. Ayan, siguro sa science, no? Sa science, mga experimentations nilang ginagawa. 2% naman ang field trip. Ayan. Ano kayang favorite place nilang puntahan sa field trip? Yan. Dati ako noon, pag lumalabas kami ng school, okay na sa akin yung pupunta lang sa barangay hall para makilala sino yung mga bahagi ng ating barangay, no? Sino kapitan, ano yung opisina ng kapitan. At iba pa. Yan. Para po doon sa mga sa 2% na sumagot sa iba pa, pwede niyo pong i-comment sa ating Facebook comment section kung ano pa po yung classroom activities na gusto mong muling maranasan sa face-to-face classes, no? Alright, sige, very exciting ang mga to. Hopefully ay magawa talaga natin to sa muling pagbukas natin ng klase. Okay, back to you, Gisela.
Ayan, thank you, Lawrence. No, nakita natin kung ano-ano talaga yung mga activities. And medyo curious nga ako dun sa 2% na at iba pa. So baka mamaya sabihin nila kung ano pa yung 2% na yun na na-miss talaga nila sa klase. Again, maraming salamat po muli sa inyong participation. Now, it's time to move on and hear from our guest speakers. Yan. So our first presenter is one of our education partners, and she will be sharing with us about Kiddie Learning Train Project. To introduce her, for almost a decade, Ms. Fach has managed education-related projects that provide scholarships for aspiring teachers and skills training support for out-of-school and unemployed youth. She is also experienced in communications and policy advocacy campaigns given her development communication degree from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and master's in public policy from the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy of the National University of Singapore. Let us all welcome the Deputy Executive Director of the Philippine Business for Education, or PBED, Diane Fajardo. Good morning po, Ms. Diane.
Good morning, fellow education workers and development advocates. Thank you for inviting Philippine Business for Education to share our learnings from our project. I know this forum mainly focuses on how teachers can teach better by learning from fellow teachers, but my presentation also has a public policy angle. So hopefully, school leaders and local leaders can also consider adopting or even improving a model similar to this. So let's start. So we wanted to help 1,000 kids catch up with their literacy and numeracy skills by using technology and volunteerism. It was originally a summer remediation program, but difficulties with logistics and supply chain last year moved our project to the beginning of the school year 2021 to 2022. So what we did to prepare is we partnered with the Learning Solution startup so that we can pre-install the tablets with a gamified learning app for kids. So their name is Enuma, and they're based in California, and they won several competitions already based on this app. So note that the app was originally developed for out-of-school kids in Tanzania, and the language was in Swahili. They just let us use the English version that they developed for the judges when they entered the X Prize contest of Elon Musk. Then we also partnered with DepEd Cebu, since our beneficiaries are from public schools, and Cebu back then was planning to open and lower their alert level. So we were hoping for a face-to-face interaction. And as targeted, we were able to reach 1,000 low-performing kids in Cebu, but they already moved up to grades 1 to 4. And we thought that it's okay since various international and local assessments show that majority of our learners have poor literacy and numeracy skills regardless of their level. So after going through the partnerships, logistics, and implementation, here are the outputs vis-a-vis our objectives. The program benefited 1,000 kids, grades 1 to 4. We also got more than 300 sign-ups, but only 137 continued because of the change in timeline. And note that all of them have teaching background, so meaning they are either students or graduates of PS education. And we also gave them an additional training so that kids will have the same tutoring framework. And we were able to analyze 260 valid post-test scores. The rest were badly affected by Typhoon Odette, so they can't go online to upload their scores, or some of them lost their phones or their numbers. That's why we can't contact them anymore. And of the 260, about 170 have learning gains, and 85 have at least 20% learning gains. But only on the average, learning gains for literacy is 9% and 7% for numeracy. Meanwhile, we also noticed that low-scoring students in grades 1 and 2 have the highest learning gains. It means the app, given its origins, is effective for the group of learners. So by learning games, this means the difference between their pre-test and post-test scores. Okay. So we also discovered the following information, and we'll go over each item in the following slides. I somehow discussed items numbers 1 and 2, wherein KLT or Kiddie Learning Train improved learning especially for those who need it the most. And number 3, having volunteer tutors or para-teachers or learning support aides is what DepEd called them, are effective in increasing learning gains. And number 4, kids find the app enjoyable and useful for independent learning. And note that we used both quantitative and qualitative methods in analyzing our data. For qualitative, we interviewed 30 pairs of parents and pupils and conducted an FGD among 5 volunteers. So, first, as mentioned previously, we have the following learning gains for literacy and numeracy. We saw high learning gains among grade 1 pupils. And as individuals, many of those who had the highest learning gains are from grade 1. And as a group, grade 1 in general had the highest learning gains. We attribute this to the original design of the program, since it's originally designed for out-of-school early graders in Tanzania. So our grade 1 students are mostly comparable to their level of learning. Right. And for the other grade levels, we deduced that the app and test are too easy for them, so they got bored and didn't take it seriously. And here's the mean at pre-test and post-test raw scores of the following grade levels. And compared to out-of-school Tanzanian kids, their scores are really high. That's why their average increase in learning gains are relatively small. Hence, they need a more challenging app fit for their level and context. Okay. Second, learning gains are the highest among the bottom quartile across all grade levels. So it's really effective for those who need it the most. Literacy learning gains are highest in grade 1, while numeracy is somewhat the same across grade levels, but still more than 2 times higher than the average overall learning gains. See, you can also look at the graph, no? And third, those who took at least one tutorial session had higher learning gains than those who did not. Interview with the parents support this finding, no? So it's plus 25% for literacy and plus 14% in numeracy. So each tutorial session is about 1 hour, once a week. And fourth, all pupils like the app and find it very enjoyable and useful for learning. 60% of them preferred learning at home using it rather than face-to-face, while almost all of them would like to have it as a supplement when they return to school. So yeah, so local leaders we think that local leaders would also find this interesting. So hopefully with the Mandanos ruling and the directions of the president in the SONA, our local leaders will also invest in the technology-based learning of our kids, as well as supporting teachers and helping them teach the students more effectively and more efficiently. Moreover, they find it easier to read and learn, or they find it easier to read and just learn in general using the app rather than reading a book or going to school, because it's really visual. And nag-enjoy talaga sila while doing it. And volunteers, parents also agree to this as they observe the minimal assistance needed and the high interest in learning as the kids use the app. And we also have additional interesting findings that support existing literature. So first, kids understand and prefer English as a language of instruction, but this is Cebu, so the context is different. And we also need to know if it's the same in other provinces. Second, kids with 8,000 and below monthly family income have lower learning gains. So this is in connection with their nutritional status and also learning environment, as well as the educational attainment of their parents, who can potentially help them in their studies. And third, connected to this, as I've mentioned, nutritional status, if they have normal weight, the learning gains are within average, and if they don't, it's lower or even negative. So hence, it's important for families to earn so that the kids can learn. We tried to also correlate the grades of the DepEd grades of the students with their number of hours using the app or with their interaction with the volunteers, but we were not able to get substantial amount of data points. So hopefully we can further study this with DepEd Cebu once we have the grades of the students. There. So given all of these findings, here are our recommendations. So first, early graders, especially the underperformers, need a tablet with gamified learning app fit for their level and needs so that they can catch up and learn better. Second, technology alone is not enough to catch up. It's important, it's useful, but it's not enough. So we need to continue having tutors or para-teachers or learning support aids to make sure that they're not left behind. So aside from the welfare of the students, this will also help teachers, since it will also unburden them, and maybe these para-teachers or LSAs can also help them with their administrative tasks so that the teachers can focus more on teaching while the students are at school. And lastly, students and their families need additional support in terms of nutrition or livelihood so that they can learn properly. So that would be all, and I look forward to our discussion. Thank you very much. Magandang umaga po.
Alright, maraming salamat po, Miss Fajardo from the Philippine Business for Education. Well, that's really interesting project, no, from our partners, na kung saan nakipag-partner pa rin talaga sila sa atin DepEd schools and DepEd Division Office, particularly sa Cebu at sa regions nga po dito sa Cebu. No, so very interesting, no, yung present ni Miss Faj, yung project nila na Kiddie Learning Train project, no, na kung saan ay nag-increase talaga yung literacy and numeracy ng grade school natin. At nakita natin doon na mas mataas talaga yung literacy gain from the grade 1. No, I think kasi doon nagsisimula yung yung interest ng mga bata to learn language, to learn reading skills, no? And through their gamified learning apps, no, na ginamit, at the same time through the para teachers na may assistance din nga ng mga volunteer teachers, ay tumaas talaga yung kanilang learning gains for the literacy and numeracy. Alright, so First part pa lang po yun ang presentation natin, no? So again, yung gamified learning, yung through the support of volunteers or para teachers, nakatulong talaga sa literacy and numeracy ng ating learners. Alright, so para naman sa ating second presenter, yan. Ang ating second presenter is one of the Basic Education Research Fund researchers or grantees. She is an elementary teacher 3 from Matalaba Elementary School, Schools Division Office of Marinduque in Mimaropa Region. Yan, akalain mo, no, talagang from the Mimaropa, meron tayong researcher dito na gumawa ng action research. And to present her action research titled How to Do It, yan, yung How to Do It niya, JAO, I think galing to sa last name niya mismo, no, very personalized yung kanyang action research. Titled How to Do It Workbook, an intervention material for developing mathematical skill in addition of 2 to 3 digit numbers of grade 2 pupils in Matalaba Elementary School. Please all welcome. Samahan niyo po ako na i-welcome natin si Miss Mary Jean Howe. Hello po, Miss Mary Jean.
Magandang araw! Nakapaghandang na ba kayo ng mga mag-aaral na kung saan ay nahihirapan silang mag-plus or minus? Dahil dito, naisipan kong gumawa ng isang intervention material. And today, I will present to you my action research entitled How to Do It Workbook, an intervention material for developing mathematical skill in addition of 2 to 3 digit numbers of grade 2 pupils in Matalaba Elementary School. I am Mary Jean Howe, Elementary Teacher 3 of Matalaba Elementary School, Santa Cruz South District, Schools Division of Marinduque, Mimaropa Region. In the school context, the dilemma of poor performance in numeracy is observed. In my previous school, nakapagturo na ako ng Math 5 and Math 6. At ngayon, grade 2 naman ang aking tinuturuan. Face-to-face man ang delivery ng instruction or modular distance learning, I observed that the learners from the primary and even in the intermediate were having difficulties in solving basic fundamental skills, even the simplest one. They lack the necessary skills to understand higher lessons or activities in mathematics. Based on the result of the pretest, the data underscored a mean percentage score of 53.35%. The results showed that there are pupils who struggled learning the concepts of adding numbers with 2 to 3 digit with and without regrouping. Dahil dito, gumawa ako ng workbook na makatutulong sa mga bata upang mas matutunan at maunawaan ang competency sa addition na may pagsasalang-alang sa kanilang kakayahan. Ito ay tinawag kong How to Do It Workbook. How stands for joyful activities in adding 2 to 3 digit numbers onto better understanding. Each activity was formulated to complement to the learner's need and enjoyment. Specifically, this research aimed to answer the following questions. 1. What is the mean percentage scores of the learners in terms of pre-test before using the How to Do It workbook and post-test after using the How to Do It workbook? 2. Is the performance of grade 2 pupils in the post-test after using the How to Do It workbook significantly greater than the pre-test? And 3. What recommendations can be proposed by the researcher based on the observation? For the methodology and scope of the study, this research made use of experimental research design and complete enumeration as sampling technique. This study involved 24 grade 2 pupils of Matalaba Elementary School. Ito ay isinagawa sa unang quarter ng taong panuruang 2021-2022 sa loob ng 2 linggo dahil sa mga hindi inaasahang sitwasyon dulot ng COVID-19 pandemic. For the ethical consideration, hiningi ko ang permiso ng mga magulang and at the same time the data of the pupils were being carefully handled. Para sa research findings, the pupils got 10.67 mini score on the pretest and 13.33 on the post-test. Moreover, the MPS obtained by the learners on the pretest is 53.35%, and 71.65% on the post-test interpreted as moving towards mastery. Kung titingnan nating mabuti ang resulta, nagkaroon ng improvement ang mga mag-aaral base sa resulta ng post-test pagkatapos gamitin ang How to Do It workbook as an intervention material. Ang table na ito ay nagpapakita ng resulta na nagpapatunay na ang performance ng mga bata sa post-test after using the How to Do It workbook as an intervention material ay significantly greater than the performance of the learners in the pre-test. Bilang intervention material, ang How to Do It workbook, which stands for Joyful Activities in Adding 2 to 3-Digit Numbers onto Better Understanding, in accordance to its name, provides illustrations of how to conceptualize, represent, and add numbers with 2 to 3-digit numbers with and without regrouping. Ang nilalaman ng How to Do It workbook ay ang mga sumusunod: learning competency, objectives, basic or important concepts, examples, models, and exercises. Ang mga exercises ay nahahati sa 3 bahagi tulad ng easy, average, and difficult. Meron din tayong cumulative review. Narito ang ilan sa mga bahagi ng workbook. When it comes to uniqueness, masasabi ko na ang How to Do It workbook ay contextualized. Ang mga gawain ay base sa kakayanan ng mga bata at ito ay interaktibo. I am driven to create a workbook that will support and maintain learners' enthusiasm in learning mathematics. Narito ang ilan sa mga gawain na nakapaloob sa How to Do It workbook. Let's race to finish. Ang gawain ito ay hahanapin ng mga bata ang sagot na nakalagay sa watawat. Kapag nahanap na nila, ay gugupitin nila ang watawat at ito ay ilalagay sa tamang sasakyan. Ang sunod na mga gawain ay ang pagkuha ng sagot, ng kabuuang sagot, sa pamamagitan ng pagkulay ng dilaw sa isahan, pula sa 10 at asul naman sa 100. For our conclusion and reflection. 1. The learners have developed their skill in adding 2 to 3-digit numbers with and without regrouping after using the How to Do It workbook. 2. This action research helped me more understand the learners that they are not just an intelligent being, but also as a child who loves to play and has other interests and capabilities. And 3rd, from the parents' feedback, it made me realize na natuto at nag-enjoy ang mga bata habang sinasagutan ang How to Do It workbook. Ang ilan sa mga feedback na ito ay aking babasahin. Una, nag-focus po siya sa kanyang inasagutan. Pangalawa, si Utoy po ay tuwang-tuwa sa pagsagot ng workbook mo. Ako po ay nasisiyahan laang habang nagasagot siya, lalo na po yung nagagupit at yun daw po ay karera. At pangatlo, masasabi ko po na ito ay nakatulong sa aking anak upang siya ay matuto sa math lesson na ito, sapagkat ito ay may malinaw na panuto na madali niyang nasundan at naunawaan. Makikita din po dito ang pagiging malikhain ni Ma'am How upang maengganyo ang mga mag-aaral na magsagot. Salamat po sa matiyagang paggawa para madagdagan pa ang kanilang kaalaman. This study made me see the learners in different light. Mas napagtanto ko na bakit hindi natin sila bigyan ng mga gawain na may kinalaman sa kanilang interes at kakayahan upang sila ay mas matuto at magkaroon ng mastery in certain math competency o sa iba pang gawain. The following are the recommendations. Una, ito ay maaaring gamitin sa remediation classes. Pangalawa, ang mga grade 2 teachers ay maaaring gumawa ng workbook as an intervention material na mag-e-enhance sa kakayanan ng mga mag-aaral sa matematika in a fun and enjoyable way. Pangatlo, math teachers may also make their own workbook that will complement the learner's needs and enjoyment, and it can be used in developing or enhancing the numeracy skills of the learners. Next, ang ating education program supervisor sa mathematics ay maaaring i-incorporate ang How to Do It workbook sa division program na Kwentong May Kwenta Man Din, na naglalayo na ma-enhance at ma-develop ang kakayanan ng mga bata pagdating sa matematika. At ang huli, when designing a workbook for intervention, ang mga teacher ay maaaring i-adapt ang outline ng How to Do It workbook. Here are some of the references that I use in my action research. Muli po, this is Mary Jean Arhao from Schools Division of Marinduque, Mimaropa Region. Maraming salamat po.
Ayan, thank you po for your very interesting research presentation, Ma'am Mary Jean How. How did you do it? Napaka-fun way po talaga ng learnings gamit ang inyong workbook at nakita nga natin na merong mga iba't ibang paraan kung paano natin makukuha ang atensyon ng ating learners at matututo sila in a very fun way at hindi sila nabobore. Kitang-kita natin yung mga pinakita yung examples, may mga paggupit, naging creative din sila at the same time yung artistic side din. Ayan, naipakita rin natin dun sa workbook. Maraming salamat po para diyan. And kung meron pa pong mga tanong ang ating mga manonood, baka may gusto silang mga tips, ganyan, or kung paano magkaroon ng fun way of learning ang ating mga pupils, maaari din po nilang ilagay yon sa ating Padlet. Tumatanggap pa rin po tayo ng mga tanong, insights, ayan. Nariyan po sa ating pinned comment. Yan, sa ating live stream, that's bit.ly/ro22QAEP2. Yan, makikita natin dyan yung kung saan tayo pwede magbigay ng comments and insights. Yan. And para po sa ating third presenter, so our third and last Basic Education Research Fund research presenter is a Master Teacher 1 and the OIC School Head of Ugac Elementary School from STO Tuguegarao Region 2. To share with us her action research, content-based story animation, and digital storybook, their effects on students' competence in explaining how the different organ systems work together. Let us all welcome Miss Karla Macalan. Good morning po.
Hello, good day everyone. One of the provisions of the K-12 Basic Education Program, as stated in DepEd Order Number 21, Series of 2019, is to equip learners with the necessary skills and competence which will prepare them to take on the challenges of the 21st century. Moreover, it also aims to produce highly competitive and scientifically inclined learners up to the international standards which will help them compete in the global context. But if you take a look at these various data showing our standing in different international assessments, we are consistently at the bottom before and even after the implementation of the K-12 basic education curriculum. Consistent with this is the standing of science as tested learning area in the national and school achievement test. As teachers, it is our duty to investigate this problem and make necessary interventions. So if you are to consider the assertion made by Schoolbag, the education news site, that science may sometimes be difficult for learners to comprehend when they are not able to see the phenomenon or experience it in real life, then we should design learning in such a way that students can carry out activities and solve problems that are characteristics of such tasks in real situations in daily life as stated in CMU Inutech Guro 21 course. Now, how can we do this? through short stories with authentic text wherein learners would be able to understand how science concepts work in relation to real-life situations. That's how I came up with the study entitled Content-Based Story Animation and Digital Storybook, Their Effects on Student Competence in Explaining How the Organ Systems Work Together. I am Karla S. Macalan, then a teacher of Tuguegarao East Central School, now the school head of Ugac Elementary School, Division of Tuguegarao City, Region 2, Cagayan Valley. This study aimed to test the effectiveness of content-based animation and content-based storybook in increasing pupils' understanding of science concepts, thus attain growth in their academic performance. The following questions were my guide in the implementation of the study. First, what is the mean performance of the pupils under the control group and experimental groups before and after the implementation of the interventions? Number 2, are the three groups of students significantly homogeneous? Number 3, is there a significant difference in the pre-test mean performance and post-test mean performance of the three groups of students? Number 4, is there a significant increase from the pre-test to the post-test mean performance of the students in each of the three groups? Number 5, what is the most effective method or methods of instruction? And number 6, as perceived by the students, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the different interventions employed? Fifteen learners from the three heterogeneous grade 6 sections of Tuguegarao East Central School were the participants of this study and were identified through simple random sampling fishbowl technique. The learners under the control group were exposed to the use of self-learning modules and use of slide decks and lesson cards in their online classes, while experimental group number 1, aside from the use of self-learning modules and slide decks, they were also exposed to the use of content-based story animation. And experimental group number 2, in addition to self-learning modules and use of slide decks and lesson cards, was exposed to the use of content-based digital storybook. Two designs were used in this study. Through experimental research design, 3-group pretest post-test was used to test if the intervention tools are effective in enhancing the academic achievement of grade 6 in science and to identify which is the best intervention tool. And the other one is the qualitative research design open-ended questions to know the advantages and disadvantages of the interventions employed. Pretest was administered prior to the exposure of the different group of learners to the different tools, after which a post-test was administered together with the floating of questionnaire to know the advantages and disadvantages of the tools. The following ethical processes were observed during the implementation of the study. Proper citation of authors and significant others that formed part in this study. The study conformed with the ethical principles of non-maleficence. Permission was requested from the approving authorities and, of course, to the parents of the participants. And the policies and guidelines of Basic Education Research Fund were followed in the conduct of the research. Before we discuss the result of the study, let's take a glance at the different intervention used. So these are the content-based learning resources used in this study. These content-based learning resources are stories that were packaged into animation and storybook given at a 1 episode or series per day scheme. The first one is the content-based digital storybook. It is actually a story divided into 4 series, packaged as a storybook, text with illustrations. The second one is a content-based story animation. It is the animated version of the content-based storybook composed of 4 episodes, packaged with audio and moving illustrations.
Mang Nervito is the owner of Order Mo, Sagot Ko, Get Shop. It shops and delivers variety of consumer products such as gadgets, foods, and other maintenance products. He has 5 business partners, Mang Kulas, Aling Inday, Mang Andoy, Aling Rina, and Aling Resi. One Sunday morning, Mang Nervito receives a call from customer.
Hello, this is order mo, sagot ko Get Shop. How may I help you?
Yes, good morning. May I place an order of okoy and malunggay pandesal good for 10 persons?
Before I finalized your order, ma'am, may I know your full name and delivery address?
I am Hannah, the hand, and my address is number 1, Finger Street, Arm Village. Thank you.
Thank you. We will deliver your order the soonest possible.
Upon receipt of the order, Mang Nervito contacted Aling Inday's Bake Shop, his official bake shop partner.
Inday's Bake Shop, good morning.
Good morning. This is Nervito. There's an order of okoy and malunggay pandesal good for 10 people.
Is that all? What is the pickup time?
After an hour or two.
Aling Inday, owner of the bake shop, promptly baked okoy and malunggay pandesal good for 10 people. As soon as the order is ready for pickup, Mang Kulas went to Mang Inday's bake shop.
Here are the okoy and malunggay pandesal Nervito order. Please handle it with care.
Don't worry, I will.
Mang Kulas took the order and delivered to the address given by Hannah, the hand.
Ma'am, here's your order.
Wow, you're just on time. Thank you.
This story used in the animation and storybook was originally written by me, and it was actually the output of Region 2 with other 2 members during the development and finalization of multimedia learning resources by DepEd Bureau of Learning Resources. Each tool was divided into 4 episodes and series. Comprehension questions from lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills follow each episodes or series. So these are the examples of comprehension questions. So here are some of the pictures taken during the implementation of the study. So here are some of my learners under the 2 intervention materials used in the study, the storybook and the story animation. Now let's proceed with the discussion of the results. The mean performance of the 3 groups of pupil respondents is presented using mean and standard deviation. Based on the numerical data on the table, there was an improvement on the performance of each group of the pupil respondents along the different method of instructions. Now, the test to know the equality of competency level of the 3 groups of pupil respondent is presented using the result of the Levin's test of homogeneity, where the interpretation not significant in the pretest connotes that the 3 groups of learners are homogeneous or have equal competency level before their exposure to the different methods of instruction. The test for the significant difference in the pretest mean performance and the post-test mean performance of the 3 groups of students using one-way analysis of variance or ANOVA is shown in the table, where the not significant interpretation in the pretest result, while a significant interpretation in the post-test is due to the exposure of the participants in the different tools, and 1 or 2 of these tools are more effective than the others. The test on the significant increase from the pre-test mean performance to the post-test mean performance of the three groups employing paired samples t-test is presented in this table. The discrepancy in the paired difference indicates that one group emerged to have the greatest difference between their pre-test and post-test mean performance, the group that was exposed to the use of content-based digital storybook. Now, post-hoc analysis through Tukey's multiple comparison test investigated which of the post-test means are different and to know where the difference came from. It is illustrated in this table where the data suggests that the use of content-based stories are both effective methods of instruction. Through thematic analysis of student responses, the advantages and disadvantages of the different intervention tools were grouped. Analysis from the responses on the advantages of the tools used in each teaching method came up with three themes. First, creative and enjoyable. Second, informative and explanatory. And third, organized and detailed. The responses of the pupil participants encapsulated the features of a good learning material, particularly on how it is related to real-life situation for better understanding, on how the illustration and animation was comprehensively packaged to arouse learners' interest, and on how the storyboard and script was carefully written to help learners realize what should be learned. Meanwhile, two themes surface as to the disadvantages. The first one on comprehension level and number two on technical specifications. Recorded responses on the disadvantages would help in the improvement of the intervention tools or materials. However, this should not be ignored, especially that they might have been contributory factors to low comprehension level. The lack of subtitle and the very long sentences may have given learners difficulties in understanding the lesson. It is also important to note that there are some learners who are more into visual and spatial rather than on oral or auditory. This might also have influenced their perceptions on the disadvantages of the different learning materials. The result of this study came up with the following conclusions and recommendations. Content-based intervention materials or tools presented through story animation and storybooks can improve the competence of the learners and can make instruction better when used as supplemental tool for modular and online distance learning. Among the three, the use of digital storybook is the most effective method of instruction. Features of the content-based materials played a vital role and have immense contribution and affected the increase in the performance of the learners. Meanwhile, the disadvantages of the three tools would help in the improvement of the different intervention tools and would serve as basis or baseline data for a follow-up study. The intervention tools based on the result of the study have the following capabilities. First one, it could also be used as springboard for comprehension lessons. Number two, it can cater the different learning styles of the learners. Number three, it promotes effective problem-solving skills since contents are contextualized and based on day-to-day experiences or situations. Next, the different higher-order thinking skills questions support enhancement of learners' critical and creative thinking skills. And lastly, it can support learners' learning pace. Given these benefits, teachers not just from the formal schools but also from community learning centers in our division adapted and utilized the different materials. Moreover, school heads from other divisions requested copies of these intervention tools. These results became the offshoot of my implementation study proposal entitled SciArt, Story Writing, Illustrating, and Animating Science Concepts, a Strategy in Improving Delivery of Instruction in Science. This was actually acknowledged by the division office as a basis in crafting localized policy to further improve the delivery of basic education. Meanwhile, here are some of the relevant references as my basis in the successful conduct of the study. First one, the CMEO and Tech, Guru 21 Module 2, Facilitating 21st Century Learning. The School Bag, the Education News site, through its article entitled Learning Science Through Stories. Of course, we have here Teaching English by British Council with the article Storybooks in the Classroom. Infleco website with its article Animation in Education. We have here also Canvas, contextualized instruction, real-world problems and tasks. And Liberty University with the study entitled Reading Comprehension, Learning Styles, and 7th Grade Student. These materials are products of my love for science, arts, and ICT. My dream intervention materials even before the pandemic started. And I'm so glad that this did not go for nothing. Instead, it helped me a lot in my teaching during the pandemic. It catered learners under different modalities and learners with different learning styles. As teachers, we must continue to explore different ways on how to cater the diversity of our learners. We must always be the best version of ourselves to keep the passion burning. Para sa bata, para sa bayan. So that's all, and thank you.
Alright, maraming salamat po, Ma'am Mara Karla Macalan from SDU Tuguegarao. Yan, very interesting din talaga yung present ni Ma'am, no? Kung kanina, unang presentation, na-present ng PBED through Miss Fudge ay on literacy and numeracy, and then the second presenter naman ay tungkol sa mathematics skills, no? At ngayon naman pangatlo ay science naman. So very interesting, no, on how the different organ systems really work together through the content-based story animation tsaka digital storybook. Yan. Tsaka interesting yung kanyang study na gumamit siya ng dalawang experimental interventions, no, kumpara doon sa ginagamit niya na simpleng interventions, no. So talaga dito nasubukan yung ating creativity as teachers kung ano pa ang pwede nating magawa para sa ating mga learners, no. Kagaya nga ng sinabi ni Ma'am Mara Karla kanina, ay yung paggawa niya ng action research na to, lumabas yung kanyang best version of herself para mas ma-keep daw yung burning passion niya sa pagtuturo, no, kahit naka-distance learning. Yan. So hopefully talaga, no, ay mas mahalin pa ng learners natin yung science because of the content-based animation and saka digital storybooks na ginawa ni Ma'am Mara Karla. Alright, sige po. At ngayon naman po ay hindi lamang po mga deputy researchers ang ating mga inibitahan para sa Research O'Clock, kundi dito din po we wanted to highlight the personal experience of our learners who are our primary stakeholders, no? So ngayon naman po ay kakapanayam natin or kakausapin natin ang isa sa mga mag-aaral na nakaranas po ng face-to-face classes nitoong nakaraang school year lamang, no? This time we will also give a chance to hear from one of the learner who experienced both the blended learning and face-to-face classes. Our invited reactor for this episode is a grade 2 learner from Alitagtag Central School mula sa Batangas. And to briefly share her experience and message, let's hear it from Bridget Ann Garcia.
I'm Bridget Ann Garcia. I'm 8 years old. I'm in grade 2.
Okay. So we have here a few questions regarding your face-to-face experience in school. Question number 1. What can you say about your experiences during the face-to-face classes?
I was excited to finally go to school again. I met new classmates and I had to follow some araw before going to the classroom.
How did your teacher teach you to understand the lesson?
She does example, she does book, she uses blackboard.
What else?
Nice ambience.
Nice ambience. What's the color of your room?
Pink.
Do you find it nice? Your teacher asked you to read in school.
Yes.
How is it?
It was nice. She asked us to read one by one.
Okay. So what would you like to say to your teachers?
I would like to thank our teachers for their patience and effort to teach us.
Thank you, Bree. Thank you for participating. Bye.
Ayan. 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 Thank you. Yan, nakakatuwa naman na pati ang mga learners natin ay involved sa ating research o'clock dahil syempre nga naman, no, Lawrence, sila ang ating primary stakeholders. So tama lang naman na marinig natin na kung ano yung mga naging experience nila nitong lalo na't nag face-to-face na nga sila last year. So yan, kwento niya na gumamit daw ng blackboard, pinabasa sila. Ayan. Ikaw, ano pa?
Yes, tama ka dyan, Gisela. Tsaka sinabi rin ng learner na she does examples daw, no? So, ibig sabihin, meron ng lecture method during the face-to-face class na kung saan parang mas elaborate teacher yung konsepto na natututunan nila sa module. Ayan. At saka nice daw ang classroom nila, no? So, very importante talaga for the face-to-face class na we provide a conducive learning environment para sa ating learners.
Yan, tama ka riyan. So yung environment talaga no, nagmamatter sa ating mga learners para maging indulging. Yan, learning conducive environment, ika nga. Ayan. So, ayan, baka meron tayong mga insights pa rin. Ini-invite pa rin natin ang ating mga manonood kung may questions sila para sa ating 3 presenters at kung gusto nilang i-share ang experiences, yan, ng kanilang mga estudyante, ng ating mga guro mismo, at yan nga, ang ating mga learner. Dahil iba-iba rin naman ang naging pananaw at experience nila sa mga nag-face-to-face classes. Yan. So, magbubukas na tayo sa ating open forum. Kaya, ayan, tuloy-tuloy lang po ang pagbibigay ng questions. Ayan, pwede po nating i-comment yan sa ating live stream. Nakapin po riyan ang ating format. Ayan, nare-remind lang po natin ulit, name of participant, and then yung target nating resource person at ang question statement. Ayan, sa Padlet naman po, pwede pong ilagay na lang po natin directly ang target RP natin and then ang question statement. So yan, tuloy-tuloy lang po tayo sa ating pagtatanong. Ayan, at kung may insights na nais tayong i-share. Okay?
Yes. At bago tayo dumako, Gisela, at para bago natin tawagin ang ating mga resource speakers na nag-present kanina, shout out ko muna po yung mga manonood natin mula sa iba't ibang division offices, no? Lalo na po from SDO to Tuguegarao City. Yeah, siguro ang dami nanonood sa Tuguegarao kasi yung nag-present ay taga kanila. Ganun din from SDO Marinduque. Yan, ang daming nanonood, nagsa-shoutout na watching from SDO Marinduque. Hello po sa mga taga SDO Marinduque. Maraming salamat po sa suporta nyo sa ating mga presenters. Yan. Also, ang dami din from General Trias, from Davao City, no? Ang daming nanonood from Batangas, from Leyte. Yan, iba't iba talaga. Iba't ibang lugar talaga nanggagaling ang ating mga manonood ngayon sa Research O'Clock. Alright, so ngayon itawagin na natin, Gisela, ang ating mga naging research speakers. Okay? Sige, tawagin natin isa-isa sila. Si Ma'am, una yung ating naging first presenter kanina from Philippine Business Education. Si Ma'am, si Miss Diane Fajardo. Ayan, tawagin natin sila. Alright, at nagbabalik po muli tayo ngayon dito sa ating Research O'Clock, pero ngayon po ay nasa open forum na po tayo. At kasama po natin ngayon ang ating mga research speakers na nag-present po kanina. Una ay si Miss Diane Fajardo from the Philippine Business for Education. Hello po, Ma'am Diane.
Hello po, good morning po.
Ayan. Kasama din natin ang ating second presenter, si Ma'am Mary Jean Howe. Hello po, Ma'am Mary Jean.
Hello po, good morning po.
Ayan, siguro papasok pala siya dun sa ating mismong framing ng live, si Ma'am Mary Jean, no? At ang ating third presenter po ay si Ma'am Karla Macalan. Hello, Ma'am Karla.
Hello po, good morning.
Ayan, good morning po sa atin. And of course, kasama din po natin ang ating FSL interpreter na rin dito na si Miss Pauline. Yan. So ngayon po dadako na tayo sa ating open forum. Kanina po ay may mga nagpadala na po ng kanilang mga questions through Padlet, at the same time through DepEd Philippines comment section, no? Yan. At babasahin po natin ang mga questions na ito at itatanong po natin sa ating mga presenter. Okay? Sige. Meron tayong unang tanong para kay Miss Diane Fajardo from Philippine Business for Education. Yan. Ang tanong po nila ay, who is going to instruct the pupils to use the education, literacy, and numeracy kiddie apps? Yan. So parang ang tanong po ay parang siguro gagamitin ito sa classroom, yung apps po na ito.
So I'll answer on the context of the implementation. No? So when we implemented it, we had a short tutorial of the parents and their guardians, no, to just to give them an idea on how to use it, or at least start it. And then once they started it for the kids, kasi parang sa una parang they need to select a level, ganyan, they need to input the username. Pero after nun, okay na. And then their app kasi is very user-friendly and kid-friendly. So very intuitive na yung user experience for the kids. So once they're logged in and then they started the test and the levels, okay na, tuloy-tuloy na. Minimal supervision required. But when our partners yung Enuma, or the tech company that developed KitKit School or the app, what they did in Tanzania, kasi sharing yung sa atin kasi each kid is provided with a tablet. So when they implemented it in Tanzania, yung teacher yung nag-i-instruct. Pero parang yung teachers, it's not really instructing kung paano gamitin, pero more on guiding the students on who will use it, ganyan, magpapalit ng level. Kasi may iba kasi na students, iba yung level nila when they use it, or iba yung games na ginagamit nila when they use it. So dun sa Tanzania, share sila. And I think if we scale this up, if government institutions like DepEd or the LGUs, no, will scale this up, pwede yon na nahatian, kasi especially face to face na, 'di ba? So they can use it kasi magkakaiba naman yung mga oras ng klase, or pwede ring recess, or pwedeng after school, ganyan. So pwede yon, yung teacher lang yung mag-guide kung para magpalit ng level.
Wow, that's interesting, no? So talagang may pa rin, kailangan pa rin ng assistance from someone who is older than the learner, no?
Yes,
Yeah.
pero very minimal lang. It's
Minimal
just to change the level. Baka
Oo.
nga kapag nakita na ng kids kung paano magpalit ng level, okay, ako na papalitan ko na yung level ko.
So pwede talaga siya na for example, grade 1 siya, pero na-realize na kaya na yung grade 3 na mga activities. Pwede niyang gawin yon.
Yes.
Wow. So talagang skill-based yung app na yon, no? Depende sa kanilang kakayanan. Alright, sige. Maraming salamat po, Miss Diane. Sige po, mamaya po may iba pa pong questions kami para po sa inyo. So ngayon naman po ay, Gisela, meron pa tayo ibang mga questions?
Yes, Lawrence, meron naman tayong question ngayon para kay Miss Mary Jean Howe. Ayan. Do you plan to expand the workbook or make a similar workbook for higher grade levels naman daw po? Yan po ang tanong natin dito.
Good morning po. Good morning po sa lahat. When it comes to planning or expanding, I have po. Yes, may plano po ako na i-expand or gamitin ito let's say for example for grade 2, pwede ko siya, ang naiisip ko po is gumawa po ulit ako ng workbook na ito, parang continuation po for different competency naman. Let's say for example, pwede pong sa the 3 basic fundamental skills na natitira po, or if will be given the opportunity, the chance, pwede rin pong matulungan yung ibang grade level to make for their class. Let's say, for example, for grade 3 or and up. Ayun.
Ayan. Thank you very much po, Miss Mary Jean. So, pwede rin natin papalatong dalhin din sa ibang grade level. Siguro magkakaroon lang din ng mga adjustments, ganyan. Pero yung context ay, yung artistic and creative side ay pasok pa din. Ayan. Thank you po.
May follow-up question ako kay kay Ma'am Mary Jean. Ma'am Mary Jean, may follow-up question po ako regarding po sa inyong workbook, no? Paano niyo po kinonsider yung interest ng mga bata para gamitin po dun sa inyong workbook? Did you ask them or how did you parang think on the design of your workbook, ma'am?
Okay po. So we all know that the learners are playful even po nung face-to-face. So we have that idea na kahit papaano they like more interesting way kung paano sila matututo. Minsan gumagamit tayo ng strategy na kung saan ay in a form of play. And then during our online po, nagkaroon kami ng online, though limited po yung mga bata na may or parents na may mga gadgets. So doon po nakikilala ko yung kanilang mga personality. And even po nung home visitation, ayan, nagkakaroon din po kami ng home visitation, though limited siya because of the situation that time. Nakikilala po, kahit po nakikilala po namin yung mga bata. Ayun.
Wow.
So based po doon sa mga sa observation. Yes, sir.
Yeah. That time talaga very challenging yung ma-meet mo yung mga learners. That's why they conducted home visitation para mas makilala yung interest at mas ma-incorporate dun sa ating module, no? Ayan. Ma'am, pag nag-face-to-face na, do you still plan to make a workbook?
Yes po. Siyempre, papagamit ko po ito doon sa mga learners ko this school year 2022-2023, and at the same time, siyempre, kung if I do have much time po, ayan, pwede pa rin po makapag-create po ng another one. Katulad po nung nasabi ko kanina.
Yan. Thank you po, ma'am. Yan. Sige po. Para po kay Ma'am Karla, yan, kasi very interesting din po yung kanyang ginawang digital storybook, no? At saka yung content-based animation. Ma'am Karla, meron din po ba kayong other plan to create that innovation pero ibang topic naman in science? Or baka meron na kayong nagawa, no? Baka pwede niyo pong ikwento rin po sa amin.
Ayan po. Actually, sir, good thing po, may mga division-initiated activities kami na nagsusupport po lahat sa mga researches ng mga schools po. So, shout out po sa taga-division of Tuguegarao City. And of course, the regional office po, regional office number 2 po. The good thing is that meron tayong activities like, kung maalala, may mga DepEd, mga storybook writing contest. Meron tayong, actually, nung in-invite lang ako just last week ng aming LR supervisor, she said na why not invite ka namin to make an animation and another storybook na parang nakaangkla po dun sa aking research. And one more thing po, si Science Coordinator, sa Science Division, Education Program Supervisor po namin naman sa Science po. In-invite din niya ako for seminar po, training workshop for teachers on content na i-ampla ko po kasi list mastered competency din pa rin po hanggang ngayon yung aking research sa ibang overall sa buong division po. Actually yung sa akin kasi hinugot ko lang siya sa list mastered competency sa class ko noon before pandemic po. Ngayon, it's actually identified as one of the least mastered skills sa buong division po. So sabi niya, bakit hindi mo yan i-share during the training workshop as a lecturer or speaker po or facilitator during the content trainings on critical content po. So magiging stepping stone ko po ito to actually encourage. Actually, hindi lang po siya applicable sa science grade 6. Pwede po siya sa ibang science grade level, sa grade 3, 4, 5, and 6. Applicable din siya actually sa ibang learning areas kasi content-based naman po siya at hindi po siya na-focus lang sa science. So kung gagawa ng kwento about math, why not po? Kwento about araling panlipunan or history na makarelate ang bata, why not po? So hindi lang po siya nakakulong sa grade 6 science na, o hindi lang siya na-contain lang sa subject na ito, kundi all learning areas across all grade level and across different modalities. So, true siguro yung magiging trainings at saka mga activities din ng research po namin na actually last year hanggang yan, 3 pong activities ng research namin ang nabigyan po ako ng chance na i-share po yung aking, what they call this one, ang aking research findings and innovations, and hopefully through that po may mga na-encourage na din actually to create just like that, and tutulong na lang din po ako on how to animate and convert it into a storybook kasi yun din naman po yung hilig ko talaga mag-animate and mag-illustrate po. And hindi lang po actually public, dito sa elementary schools po ang nag-invite, pati po mga tawag dito, universities po sa amin. In-invite din po ako ng isang university po to share my study po and result po niya and the intervention tools. So yun po, may plan po ako to collaborate with the different education program supervisors and hopefully po magiging successful po siya. Thank you po.
Ma'am, follow-up question po, nung in-implement niyo po yung inyong interventions, ano po yung tumatak sa inyo na feedback ng learner?
Ayun po,
puro ng parent na tinulungan niya yung learner. Sige, ma'am.
Yun po, yung parang yung shinare ko po kanina, sabi niya nag-enjoy sila. Other po sabi nila para lang daw silang nanonood po ng anime o kaya yung Powerpuff Girls, and they enjoyed kasi naintindihan nila compared daw po doon sa usual power slide decks na disgusting daw yung itsura ng systems of the body, pero nung ginawa siyang cartoon po, tuwang-tuwa po sila, tas gumagalaw po daw. And very informative daw and self-explanatory daw yung kwento na hindi na kailangan dumaan sa mga mabibigat na terms. Yun po yung nandun po sa aking slide kanina po.
Wow, that's very interesting, no? Kasi alam mo, Gisela, siguro nag-aaral tayo, mas natatandaan natin yung kwento ng teachers kaysa dun sa lessons, no? That's why I think very powerful yung paggamit ng story-based sa learning interventions, no? Yung parang story-based learning. Kasi tanda ko nung elementary, mas natatandaan ko pa yung kwento ng teacher ko. For example, sa bulaklak, ganyan. Kaysa doon sa mga parts of the flower, mga ganyan, mga petals, etc. ganyan. Pero yung kwento niya tungkol sa bulaklak, mas natatandaan ko yun, no? So I think baka pwede nga talagang ma-explore nating mga teachers yun na gagamitan natin ng kwento yung pagtuturo ng mga science concepts. Lalo na itong kay Ma'am Karla. This is the least mastered skill sa science noon, no? Yung how our organs our organs sa katawan ay nag-work together, no? Yung relationship ng bawat isa. Alright, maraming salamat po para Karla.
Ayan.
Meron pa ba tayo ibang questions?
Ayan, meron pa. And also, para kay Miss Jao muna, kay Miss How muna pala, sorry po. Ayan. Ito po, what are the recurring challenges or issues po na na-encounter nyo during the implementation of your intervention? And paano nyo po kaya na-address ito, Miss How?
Okay po. So, yung mga na-encounter ko po is unang-una katulad nga po ng sabi ko, that time is yung barangay po na kung saan ako nagtuturo is nagkaroon ng cases ng COVID po. So, syempre, kailangan, ang ginawa ko po is yung mga kaya ko pong i-reach through online na kung saan po ay yung mga gamit po nilang gadgets is sa magulang or sa kanilang kapatid. So, sa pamamagitan po ng online, na guide po sila and at the same na-orient at na-guide po sila. Samantalang yun naman pong mga walang kakayan, hindi makagamit ng gadgets kasi po nagkakaroon po ng conflict po ng schedule between their sisters or brothers. So sila po yung na-home visit ko. Ayan. So nagkaroon, pero following the safety protocol po na pinapatupad natin syempre para po maging safe din ang bawat isa.
Ayan. Thank you very much po, Miss How. So itatanong ko na rin po kay Miss Diane ang same question na rin po kung ano po yung mga recurring challenges na na-encounter nyo during the implementation po ng inyong intervention and how did you address po, Miss Diane?
Yeah, so yung challenges po talaga namin ay yung pag-collect for them to take the actually dapat may pre-test, mid-test, and post-test. And then, yun talaga yung mahirap for them to retake it. Actually, the app, so we provided them load, but the app works offline. So they just need to log in for the data to be transmitted to the server. So yun, parang may mga technical difficulties. So because some of them are residing in rural areas, baka while they're going online or while the data is being transmitted, may lag. So minsan corrupted yung data, or sometimes they don't really take the test, or they forget to take the test. So kaya din 260 lang yung post-test namin, valid post-test stickers namin.
Ayan, thank you po Miss Diane. So ayun nga po, baka po hindi po na-download lahat noon. Minsan nako-corrupt nga yung data sa internet. So yun po yung challenge. And itanong ko na rin po ang same question kay Miss Macalan tungkol po sa mga recurring challenges nyo po na na-encounter sa pag-implement ng inyong intervention, and paano po natin ito na-address.
Ayan po ma'am. Actually po, the good thing with the material po ay mababa po yung resolution ng video, and madali lang po siyang isend through messenger. So naging madali sa akin yan. Pero yung naging problema po yung mga part po ng yung mga hindi po, although hindi sila kasali po na participant po, yun lang po na kailangan kong yung sa pag-send via share it po ng video takes time po kasi phone to phone po yun at hindi internet connection ang kailangan. And then yun po, yung sa printing po ng 60 pages po na storybook, makwan po kasi yun mahaba kasi 4 na series po siya. Combination of different systems of the body na nag-work. So 60 pages. So siguro yun na lang po yung some resources and yung way of delivering the material na dun sa mga walang internet connection. But then po with the constant contact with the parents and with the support naman po ng mga stakeholders ng school at saka nung school mismo sa pagbigay po ng material po para sa amin through our MOE po and Adapt School program po, and naging successful pa rin naman po siya.
Ayan, maraming salamat po. Dahil nga po sa mga support, ayan, address natin yung mga challenges dahil medyo mahaba nga naman kasi may story nga naman siya. Hindi siya ordinaryong way of learning lang na sasabihin mo lang. Ayan, ganyan. Maraming salamat po. Meron pa bang question, Lawrence?
Actually, hindi siya question. Ano siya, mga insights na sinare ng ating mga audience. No? Pinadala nila sa Padlet. Meron dito para kay Miss Diane Fajardo ng PBED. Sabi dito sa Padlet, actually, anonymous siya. Sabi niya dito, nowadays, gaming apps really enjoyable for kids. The ability and skills improves better and also a fastest way to solve numerical problem. In terms of literacy, the app must improve reading skills by using talking app daw that teaches how to read in proper way. Yeah, may ganong insight, no? Parang comment din nung ating respondent. Meron ka
Lawrence, if I may comment din, actually the app includes an audio guide. So, yun din. Kaya natututunan nila kung ano yung tamang pronunciation.
That's nice. Kaya talaga walang teacher, no? Pwede siyang matuto ng what's the correct pronunciation of this and that, ganyan. And sabi rin dito from FB comment, sabi ni Fernandez Gilbert, Kiddie Learning Train Project, I think this will be more interesting. Yan, naputol na yung comment niya, no? So, siguro interesado din siyang magamit ito, no? So, tagasan kaya si Sir Gilbert, baka gusto niyang matry yung Kiddie Train Project. Ayan. Miss Pash, meron bang opportunity for them to reach out to you?
Actually, the app po is, kumbaga, we've partnered with a company that provided it for free for an amount of time, but they're actually offering their services. I think they developed it or they improved it in a way na level na talaga ng grade school students. Yung level of difficulty, hindi na for out of school Tanzanian kids. So it's more an international na. But yun nga, we have to subscribe. So we are looking for partners, or kaya the reason why we're presenting this is, yun nga, hopefully principals or local government officials or even DepEd can appreciate the model or just the idea and have someone develop a similar app or maybe subscribe to them, no? Kasi kailangan talagang may specific app. Syempre, hindi siya libreng nagagamit. I mean, they also need to, parang there are costs in developing this app. So hopefully, yun nga, with the pronouncements of President Marcos, na to really give technology importance, give learners the proper tools and equipment for them to catch up or learn, di ba? Sana we can collaborate and provide that kind of advantage or support for the kids.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Miss Diane. No, I agree na, yeah, hopefully we can really reach more learners, no, to use technologies in their learning, because yeah, meron din talaga nag-agree na merong mga disadvantages on the use of technology in the learning, etc. Ayan. Meron din po nag-share ng insight for Ma'am Mary Jean Howe. Sabi niya, ang saya ng inyong workbook, very personalized. Because I think nagamit yung how to do it mula sa apelyido niyo, Ma'am Jao, no? Very helpful ito para sa ating mga young learners, engaging yung mga ginamit na visual presentations. Ayan. So I think that's the clue word ngayon, no? Yung paggamit ng engaging materials para sa learners. Yung talagang sekreto for the elementary, ano? Yan. Para naman kay Ma'am Karla, Macalan, ayan, tuwang-tuwa sila. Yan, sabi dito, tuwang-tuwa kami sa napanood naming sample na video animation. Yan, sa pag-animate daw ng storybooks. And congratulations daw po, Ma'am Karla, sa iyong presentation. Proud Tugegorenyo kami. Ayan. Yeah, so hopefully yung mga taga-Tugega raw ay ma-inspire talaga kay Ma'am Karla na magamit din talaga yung kanyang storybooks, no? O kaya yung paraan ng paggawa ng digital animation or digital workbook. Alright. Sige, meron pa tayong questions, Gisela?
Ayan. So, puro pag-congratulate din yung mga nabasa ko dito. Sinasabi nila na salute to all of you. Very informative and inspiring researches. At ayan, nagpapasalamat sila sa mga na-share ninyo. At sa tingin ko, may mga nanghihingi na rin ng tips kung paano ba nila magagaya or paano ba yan, masusubukan yung mga gantong interventions. Ayan. And sabi nga nila, kahit nga daw sila na hindi learner, parang naiengganyo silang matuto muli base dun sa mga nakita nila kung paano yung creative way para matuto na hindi nakaka-bore para sa mga bata, lalo sa ating mga elementary learners na challenge talaga din minsan ang pagpukaw ng atensyon nila. Ayan. And all, yan, puro very inspiring daw po ang inyong mga presentations. Ayan. And congratulations. Yan, napakarami pong pagbati sa inyo. And yan, ito po ay isa pang katanungan din. Pwede rin po para sa inyong tatlo po, what is your message to our teachers as they prepare for the F2F classes? Unahin ko na po muna si Miss Jean Howe. Yan, Miss Mary Jean Howe, ano po inyong message sa ating teachers as they prepare for the F2F classes?
My message for my co-teachers, for my fellow teachers, for the F2F classes, ayan, so keep on going lamang po, though medyo yung time natin is talagang napakalapit po from the ending to the beginning of this class. So tayo naman po mga teachers ay jack of all trades, di po baga? Kumbaga, kahit sabihin natin, okay, pahinga muna, pero tuloy pa rin po tayo sa paggawa. Hindi tayo kumbaga yung pahinga natin, even our rest ay ginagamit natin para sa ating pag-prepare sa ating work para sa mga bata, syempre. So yun lamang po, just keep the fire burning.
Ayan, keep the fire burning daw po para sa ating mga kaguruan. Go, go, go lang. Thank you, Miss Howe. Yan. Next naman po, itanong ko na rin po ang message ni Miss Diane Fajardo para po sa ating teachers as they prepare for F2F classes.
Una po, salamat sa inyong dedikasyon at saka passion in teaching our kids. So, with our learnings today, feel free to use technology, but at the same time, ask help from volunteers. I think given with our political situation, no, parang a lot of people would like to help, 'di ba? So yon, parang have that in mind that hindi po kayo nag-iisa. There are communities, there are people who are willing to help you.
Yan, thank you po, Miss Diane. And lastly, si Miss Karla Macalan po, ano po kaya ang inyong message sa ating teachers as they prepare for the FTF classes?
Ayan po, yun po, keep the passion burning, and lagi po natin tandaan itong pandemic, naging linya po yan, yan po yung nag-test ng ating resourcefulness, flexibility, and creativity. So, with or without pandemic, let's continue to become the better version or the best version of ourselves, and dapat po continue na natin integrate kasi because of the pandemic, natuto tayong gumamit nag-integrate ng ICT, tama po ba? So napaka-important. So ito po, continue na natin to kahit may face-to-face man. Let's continue to integrate ICT para mas ma-improve po yung teaching, learning. Kasi pag pinasok natin po yan, andyan na po lahat. Yung engagement ng mga bata, yung development ng kanilang 21st century skills. So let's embrace na po yung tinatawag. Kung may technology 4.0, meron po tayong education 4.0. So let's do that. And ulitin ko po, keep the passion burning. Para sa bata, para sa bayan.
Ayan. Thank you very much po. Yes, para sa bata, para sa bayan. Yan. Lagi pong tumatatakin sa ating mga isipan. And yan, yung engagement po talaga. Parang yun yung keyword na nare-recall ko lagi. Yung engagement ng learner at yung ang daming sinubok sa atin ng pandemya. Ang dami nating naging creative tayo, nag-improvise tayo hanggang sa nakapag-develop nga po tayo ng mga tools. Ayan, at gamit ang ating technology. Maraming salamat po sa pagbibigay ng mensahe para sa ating mga kaguruan. Tiyak ko po malaking impact din po nito sa mga nanonood nating kaguruan ngayon. Yan. Salamat po uli. At para naman po magbigay ng ating synthesis. Ayan. Ayan, at closing remarks, tatawagin po natin ang Chief of Policy Research and Development Division na si Ms. Mariel C. Bayangos. Good morning po, Ms. Mariel.
Hello, magandang umaga, Gisela and Lawrence. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much, Gisela and Lawrence. Thank you for the very engaging discussion ng ating second session sa ating research o'clock. Ako, nag-enjoy din akong makinig mula sa ating partner from PBED and also yung dalawang guro natin. And lagi po kaming appreciative of your efforts to work with the Department of Education in building evidence for basic education. So I hope yung mga kasamahan po natin ngayon na nakikinig, I hope marami kayo ulit natutunan sa aming second episode. And siguro po just to highlight yung mga naging resulta ng discussions this morning. Una, nais ko pong bigyang diin yung kahalagahan nung pagiging system ng pag-follow ng system approach. Ibig sabihin, ang teaching and learning ay hindi lang natin siya tinitignan dun sa kung ano ang ginagawa at interaction ng bata at ng teacher sa loob ng classroom, ano yung preparation na ginagawa ng teacher. Pero tignan din natin kung paano nakakatulong yung ibang mga proseso at sistema sa paaralan at suporta ng magulang dun sa para mas maging makabuluhan yung pagtuturo na ginagawa ng ating mga guro. So nakita po natin iyon dun sa presentation ng PBED, yung KLT, na hindi lamang nila pinagtuunan ng pansin yung teaching and learning process. So tinignan din nila yung ibang mga factors na maaaring makatulong, like pagsiguro na merong gagamitin ang mga mag-aaral, merong load, may role ang magulang dun sa proseso. Ayun po, no, na hindi dapat makikita natin yung pangkabuuan na sistema na kung saan umiikot at nasusuportahan yung teaching and learning process. Pangalawang bahagi po, dapat makita natin yung kahalagahan ng involvement ng learners at parents sa buong proseso po na ito, at gusto po namin i-reiterate yun. Nakita po natin kung gaano kahalaga yon, lalo na sa nakaraang 2 taon na ang mga bata ay nasa bahay, doon sila nag-aaral. Mahalaga na maunawaan natin ang ating mga mag-aaral dun sa pag-design natin ng mga intervention. At naipakita po yan ng 2 guro po natin na nag-present ng kanilang intervention, kung paano nila kinonsider yung kanilang mga estudyante, yung kanilang mag-aaral dun sa pag-design ng mga intervention bago po nila isinagawa yung kanilang pagsasaliksik. So mahalaga na nagkakaroon tayo ng assessment at pagkilala dun sa mga learners para mag-fit. Kaya nga po finding the right blend, para mag-fit yung design natin dun sa pangangailangan ng ating mga pag-aaral. And of course, yung importance pag-engage ng mga magulang dun sa pag-monitor kung nagiging meaningful ba at nagiging relevant ba yung mga interventions na pinoprovide natin. Mahalagang makuha ang feedback ng mga magulang dahil sila yung nakikita nila yung kung paano nagre-respond yung mga bata din dun sa mga interventions na ginagawa po natin. So mahalaga na hingin natin yung kanilang feedback, hindi lamang syempre yung kanilang mga positive na feedback, but also mahalaga din na malaman natin sa mga magulang paano tayo mas mag-i-improve dun sa mga interventions natin. And then lastly, napakahalaga isang malaking usapin yung teknolohiya lalo na ngayong panahon ng pandemic, pero makita po natin na despite the challenges at yung mga limitations sa access, alam po natin na patuloy yung progress natin in terms of technological support sa atin pong mga mag-aaral. And mahalaga na makita natin kung paano ma-maximize itong technology na ito para mas maging advantageous siya sa teacher, maging advantageous siya sa atin pong mga mag-aaral, at ma-maximize talaga natin siya para matuto po yung mga bata despite the limitation. So narinig din po natin yung mga while magaganda po yung mga interventions na ipresent ngayong umaga na ito, nakita din po natin yung mga challenges, and hopefully po as you put your interest in these interventions, sana po mapag-aralan din po natin kung paano po natin ma-address yung mga challenges na yun further, especially if you are planning to also implement yung inyong mga respective interventions. Sana natuto kayo hindi lamang dun sa kanilang mga magandang nagawa, but also in the challenges that they faced, para po again patuloy po tayong mag-improve dun sa mga proseso po natin, lalo na sa pagtuturo po natin sa mga mag-aaral. So ayun lamang po, again maraming salamat po sa mga nakinig, sa mga nagtanong lalo na, and syempre dun sa mga words of affirmation po ninyo sa mga researchers po natin ngayong umaga. And hopefully po mas na-encourage kayo din na magsagawa ng inyong pagsasaliksik, maghanap ng mga existing education research para makatulong sa inyong mga pagtuturo, at syempre po yung mga currently na nag-research, na sana po na-encourage din po kayo na magbahagi ng inyong mga results later on para matuto din po yung iba, at sabay-sabay po tayo, hindi lamang sa inyong mga classroom but also at the policy level, sabay-sabay tayo na matuto at tulong-tulong tayo na ma-improve ang ating education system, lalo na po itong paghahanda po natin ngayong bagong school year, na alam po namin na magbubukas na ang mga paaralan for face-to-face. Sana po yung mga prinsipyo na nailatag dito sa ating mga presentations ay mapulot po natin at makatulong sa ating pong paghahanda. Yun lamang po. Again, maraming salamat. Pasasalamat po syempre sa PBED, kay Diane, thank you so much for your presentation, sa inyong support, sa atin pong 2 teachers, kay Ma'am Mara and kay Ma'am How. Maraming salamat po for your passion and also for working beyond by and producing evidence at something that will be useful in the education sector. Sana po ay hindi kayo magsawa na suportahan itong ating panawagan to build more evidence in the education sector. And sana po ay makasama namin kayo muli sa mga susunod na episodes po natin ng Research O'Clock. Magandang araw po sa ating lahat.
Alright, maraming salamat po Miss Mariel sa iyong synthesis and closing. So dami namin natutunan, no, as you synthesize the presentations, no, and at the same time yung affirmations natin sa ating mga teachers on conducting the research and the potential impact or effect of conducting action research to the learning outcomes. Alright, so mga kabayan, kung nabitin po kayo sa ating Research O'Clock ngayon, huwag po kayong mag-alala because we will be sharing with you ang ating mga research bulletins na patungkol dito sa ating tema ngayong araw na to. So ano ba ang research bulletin? Ito po ay isang two-pager, abridged version ng study or ng research na ginawa po ng ating mga presenters. So kung saan ay pwede niyo pong mabasa pa ito, no? At the same time, bukod po sa mga nag-present po ngayon, may iba rin po na mag-share po ng kanilang research bulletins na amin po i-share po sa mga susunod na araw at episodes, no? Ganyan din po, pwede nyo pong balikan ang ating previous Research O'Clock sessions. Even this time, ito pong ating Research O'Clock na ito, pwede nyo pong balikan sa ating DepEd Philippines Facebook page. Hanapin nyo lamang po yung Research O'Clock playlist. Ayan, napakadali lang po yan. Hanapin nyo lang po yung Research O'Clock playlist sa ating DepEd Philippines Facebook page.
Alright, thank you, Lawrence. At kung nabitin naman kayo sa ating episode today, we invite you to visit and subscribe to Isaliksik. Ayan po ang DepEd's official research portal. So you can check out more basic and action research papers and bulletins by DepEd birth researchers. Yan. Malay nyo, ma-inspire kayong gumawa ng sarili nyong pananaliksik. Ayan.
Tama ka dyan, Gisela. And speaking of pananaliksik or pagsasaliksik, iniimbitahan din po namin ang lahat ng manonood ngayon na maging bahagi po ng pananaliksik ng BHROD, School Effectiveness Division, patungkol sa Learning Support Aids. Yan. So, comment nga po kayo sa ating comment section kung familiar po kayo sa ating LSA o yung ating Learning Support Aids. Yan. We would like to invite the SDO personnel, school heads, and teachers to share with us your insights on what roles and responsibilities our LSAs should perform when full face-to-face classes resume this November through the link flash on your screen. So makikita nyo po dyan yung link na bit.ly, I think bit.ly to, /3IYXCon. Ayan. By the way, ilalagay din po namin sa comment section para po kayo po ay makapagsagot po ng survey na ito na kung saan ay ano po ba dapat ang maging roles and responsibilities ng LSA kapag nag-full face-to-face na tayo ngayong November. No? And again, mark your calendars for the next episode of Research O'Clock on the following dates. Yan, ang susunod po nating Research O'Clock ay for the episode 3, we will talk about reinforcing positive learning environment on August 29. Ayan. No? Antabayan po natin ang susunod nating episode. Alright, sige. Zella?
And finally, bago po kami magpaalam sa inyo, we want to know your thoughtful feedback on today's forum. So kindly accomplish po the feedback form. The link is available in this post po. You can also scan the QR code for you to access the feedback form. So share with us also kung ano po ang mga suggested topics or themes na gusto nyong ma-present sa mga susunod naman na episodes ng Research O'Clock. We'd like to thank you po for your valuable time, insightful comments, and questions. Thank you to our research presenters, yan, FSL interpreters, yan, ang ating research coordinators, Ayan. And yan, FSL interpreters po from the Philippine School for the Deaf. Yan. Technical team po ng ating PAS-PD and the PSPRD na hindi matatawaran ang naging suporta po at patuloy na pagsama po sa amin. Yan. And muli, this is Gisela.
And this is Lawrence. That's all
All
for
po.
this episode. Thank you.
Thank you po sa inyo lahat.
Bye.
Bye.
Live pa sa DepEd.